Hello everyone, it's good to have you join us today on yet another interesting episode of the show tagged People's Voice. It's a show that gives you an opportunity of being heard, especially on trending issues that affects us as a people and the society at large. It's the People's Voice. Once again, I say welcome to the show. I am Joshua Okata.
And I am Samuel Okata.
On the show today, we will focus on the cost, duration, and challenges inherent in the housing scheme in Lagos. Of course, as you know, getting an accommodation, especially a decent one in Lagos today, is very difficult. And especially when you've got to be at the mercy of estate agents, and most of all, you've got to pay exorbitant fees, sometimes 1 or 2 years in advance. Now the question is, monthly or annual rent, which would you prefer and why? It's an audience conversation, so feel free to join the conversation by following us on all our social media platforms at iBrandTV. We'll take a breather now, and when we return, the program continues. Don't go nowhere. Welcome back. It's still your program, The People's Voice. So according to an article published by Business Day, the Lagos State government will be implementing a monthly rent scheme in the state beginning from January 2022. This means renters in the state will no longer be required by their landlord to pay their rents yearly or two in advance. So Sam, what's your view on this? Do you think such, plan by the government will be feasible enough? What do you think?
Well, for me, I think it's a welcome idea first from the side of the government, because it has always been, the plight of the common man. I mean, those who cannot really comfortably, afford accommodation or property. Now, no one over the years have been able to come from the side of the government to say, okay, this is our action plan or our decision, to end this, extortion coming from property owners, developers, landowners, so to speak. But now government is coming up with that plan. Fine, that's why I said it's a welcome development. At least the common man has a hope, so to speak, to own a house, affordable house. But at the same time, I must be honest with you, I don't think this idea coming from the government will see the light of day. You know why? This isn't the first time the government will be coming up with this plan to say, you know what, an end to property owners coming up to say 1 year tenement rate or 2 years tenement rate. This is not the first time. They've done this sometime last year, if I'm not mistaken. And, gradually the idea of the government on this gradually cooled off. It experienced the natural death. Now they're coming out to still make the same statement. And I feel why they are like doing this, steadily is just for people to understand that the government is not, playing the cool side, as per not talking about this when they know these things are being practiced in the, property sector or in the real estate sector. They just want to make people know that, fine, even if, you guys are going through this, we will be justified, at one point or the other to know or for people to know that, yes, we have spoken, against this and we're not really happy with what is going on. So that I feel is just the game, so to speak, that the government is playing on this.
Well, you think because of, given what you just explained now, that in recent past, action plans have been put in, but the implementation, as it were, has not been felt.
Yes, there's nothing like an action or action after your spoken words.
Okay, well, that's just your view on it. But let's also hear what the people say. As you know, it's the people's voice. So let's hear what the people have to say as regards this. What is your view on the monthly versus the annual rent? So let's give a thought on this.
I prefer monthly because of some people don't have the inability to save. They don't have a saving culture. Whatever money that comes their way, They just spend it. When it reaches time to pay the annual rent, they are a big problem. See, that is just the singular reason I have.
If a landlord takes 1 year and in case he's looking for money, emergency money, the tenant will not answer him in time. Tenant will not answer. But if he takes 6 months, whenever he want to do anything, he can tell the person that want to give him contract that please give me 2 months, I will collect house rent and pay. But if it is 1 year, the tenant will not answer him. Why then? By then you will see that the tenant, the landlord himself, will start suffering, looking for money, and nobody will answer him because it has already taken 1 year. 6 months is the best.
The year is better than the 6 months, because when you get the year, you put it on something. It's able to cannot use the money anyhow.
Monthly, how many people can? People will say they can afford it on a monthly basis. When you divide your if your rent, for instance, is saying 1 million, if it's saying 100,000 on a yearly basis, divide that one by 12 months. How much people are earning that amount on a monthly basis? So me, I advocate for 1 year rent. I know people will want to crucify me and say, why yearly? Why yearly? No, I prefer yearly rent. I'm okay. I plan for it. I plan for what I'm going to pay. I know my next year's rent is coming up.
Some will prefer monthly, some will prefer yearly. Those who are working and earning salary monthly might prefer monthly, but those who are doing their business might prefer yearly. And the option is for an individual, whichever you prefer, if it is Monday or yearly. But Monday is okay. I think many people would prefer monthly. That's my own idea about the whole thing.
All right, so you're welcome back. It's still your show, The People's Voice. You've heard the various perspective on the show as regards what the people on the street have to say as regards the new law that has been passed by His Excellency the Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu as regards, renters will no longer be required to pay, the 1 year, 2 years, or 3 years as the case may be regarding rentals. It's going to be on a monthly basis. So we're not done with the conversation yet. Joining us to do justice to this very hot topic is our very amazing guest. He is by name Chief Olusegun Agbati. You're welcome to the program, Chief.
Thank you.
All right, so you are aware of the new law that has been passed in Lagos State, which took effect, in January 2021 this year. Now, my first question to you is, what is your view as regards this? Let's take it from there before we hit the ground running.
Yeah, like I said.
All right.
My name is Chief Olusegun Agbati.
All right.
I'm an arbitration lawyer. I'm a realtor. And I've been in this business of real estate for decades. My observation about the law, this part in Lagos State is as simple as ABC to tell you my own view about the law.
All right, please go ahead.
During Fashola regime, the same law was enacted.
Okay.
And group of lawyers and realtors into Fashola court. I believe they won the case. On the technical ground that you don't make law on what you don't owe. Yes, Lagos is Lagos. It's governed by the governor. But you govern people and you cannot make law for people that you don't even have. You must have their own input. You must have their, yes, the criminality aspect of the profession has to be adequately taken care. Especially those that landlord that charge arbitrarily or collect people's money without their house. But pensioners and people that borrowed money from banks, and they need to repay their loan, and they live on this rental. So for you to say you want to make law for them to be paying monthly, it can't work.
All right.
All right.
So you just established.
To do is to construct their own housing, and flood the market to compete with existing ones, so that people will be forced to go for government home that is just monthly.
All right. So what you've just established in a couple of minutes so far is that first you feel that you cannot enact a law on something you don't produce. First.
What you don't know.
All right.
You don't own a house.
Okay.
You own a car. You are making law that I should not use my car the way I want.
All right. So my next question to you would be, now, as a real estate expert, how often should a landlord, knowing fully well that he owns the property, and going by what you said, most of them are retirees, and they might have taken loans from the banks or financial institutions to be able to put up such structure. Now, given the fact that you own that structure, and based on the fact that you are a real estate expert, how often should a landlord of a property increase his rent? Please make it as practical as possible in terms of the percentage that is required for such a landlord to increase or make an increment. First, what is the frequency and what is the percentage increment?
Collecting money monthly. If you are talking of increment, the law that guided increment is 10% either 2 years or 3 years.
All right. So you mean
People do obey that law.
all right. So you mean
No moral ground.
So you mean it should be on a 10% basis if there should be an increment, and it should be after 2 years, right?
Yes, that's 2 or 3 years.
Now, in a case where somebody takes it for about 50 to 100%, is there any law that guides the tenant to take that matter legally against the landlord?
Of course, if you pay 1 million this year and the landlord increase to 2 million,
Okay.
you have more legal grounds to challenge the case in the court.
All right. Thank you very much for that answer. All right. Okay, Chief, let me just come in a little bit here, because I'm glad you were able to state that the government cannot impose, such laws when they don't produce, something related to that. Is that what you said?
Yeah, government cannot make law what they don't want.
All right. So how realistic do you think this law, being enacted by government is going to look like when even there is no forum, or will I say a platform whereby they bring these property owners together to say, okay, fine, how do we give you a soft landing, so that whatever laws that we are coming up with will be able to hold sway? How do you think, we can all work collectively when there is no platform like this? How realistic do you think this law is going to look like? Sorry to also add, knowing fully well that sourcing building materials locally is on the increase, and there is no provisions being given to these property owners to make things really easy for them, so that when they are pegging their prices, it's going to look a little bit reasonable to the people who want to really get this property. So how realistic do you think this will look like?
For now, if I may understand you,
Yes.
I'm taking 2 points from your because the thing is not audible enough for me to hear, but I can pick so maybe you ask, maybe there is no forum where government can discuss the issue of
Property.
property with people,
Exactly.
but there are ways how government creates people during election time. There are ways how NEPA collects their taxes from people. There are ways how local government is collecting their taxes from people. So government should create a way to in prices or
Increase.
how building material should be narrowed down in the price to aid the people who are still those people that want to build new houses. Property now at the cost of cement alone as of today is like 5,000 naira per bag. As of last year, it was like 3,000. So are you telling me if I buy 5,000 naira per bag cement, so we have charged the same price as of the one I bought last year at 3,000? If you want to make law, that's part of it. If you want to go and place the price control in building materials, then we look for alternative ways, cheap, how we can build houses in a cheaper form. We in the industry, we have what it takes and how it takes to build a cheaper house. We are not included in their law. We are not effective. You sit down, you make law from people that are not effective.
All right, so Chief, I'm going to take you back from that particular part where you just landed. Now, my next question to you would be, of course, you agree with me that today it is practically very impossible for an individual to get an affordable and decent apartment in Lagos without having to go through the agents, I mean the estate agents. Now, my question to you would be, why is it such a big challenge for most people to be able to get, you know, a very decent accommodation without being imposed to pay a certain amount, you know, a levy? Sometimes it could be 2,000 naira and you are asked to fill their form. Why must you fill a form and pay a levy of 2,000 naira before they can start a search for you as someone who is interested in getting an accommodation? Is it legal for one to pay such a levy?
Yes, it's right. That's the levy.
So you mean I cannot come to you directly if I know you to get an accommodation without you referring me to an agent?
You are consulting them. They don't only free or charity organization. The owner always they pay their rent, they pay their charges, they pay their tax,
All right.
they pay electricity,
Okay.
they pay money to shop.
Okay.
So for all things accommodation before anybody can come and pick it.
Okay.
You are where the internet charges alone is killing. And all the means of communication before they can now go and be visiting accommodation. Let me take you and take you to.
No, you've answered that point. You've answered that part very, very correctly. Now, my next question to you would be, the population of Lagos State today, especially for those who are residing in Lagos today, is estimated to be about 17.5 million people, which of course creates a housing deficit in Lagos today to the tune of 2.5 million. Now, what do you think the authorities who are saddled with these, you know, areas, I mean the ministry or agency that are saddled with the responsibility of providing low-cost housing, needs to do to bridge the gap of those who do not have decent homes? You said what?
If you want me to repeat myself again, we have what it takes to get accommodation building cheaper.
So what do you think needs to be done to get it cheaper?
If a house that's supposed to use 100% cement base,
Okay.
we have products that you can use only 20% base of cement.
Okay.
Cement is one of the most costly parts of building material.
All right.
Cement, but the weight we have discovered
Okay.
you need to use where you need 100% cement base. You use only 20%.
Okay.
Even 10%.
All right.
And it will reduce the cost. But before the government that will expose, they will expect to use that process to build out and even listening. They are not ready.
Okay. All right. So, Chief, finally, because we are really pressed for time, we are very pleased that you were able to state the fact that this new law being imposed by the state government with regards to ending yearly tenement rates, you know, this is not the first time this, you know, statement will be coming from the state government. It has happened in the time of Fashola, like you said, and other past rulers. Now, it is coming again.
what do you think the government needs to do right now to really make this law to be followed to the latter, so that people don't see the government as, a government that is not serious, when it comes to making such statements, concerning the plight of the citizens?
It is only the criminal aspect that the government can segregate.
Hmm.
It will say, when they will force people to pay monthly, then you will see how many people they will chase away from their homes. In fact, some will beg the landlord to accept to write one month for them, while they pay 1 year. And even the tenants themselves, there are categories of people that monthly salary, monthly payment rate we favor. That is the staff that works in companies or corporate institutions, banks, and for the businessmen, there is no one that will accept to pay 1 month, because you might be business today, next month you might be dry. And if we allow him to eat your money, then we make the code will be flooded.
All right.
A lot of people will not be able to pay.
All right. Now, my final question to you would be,
That the corporate institution workers, we there are about 20% of people who live in houses.
all right, that part has been established, Chief. Now, you understand the fact that there are a lot of scams going on, especially with people who want to get accommodation. They end up paying into the wrong account, and the next thing, the property is, set to be on sale. Now, as we speak today, we have about 100 prospective tenants who have been swindled off about 51 million naira owing to tenement or tenancy scam. Now, as a real estate expert, can you run us through in the next 5 to 10 seconds on how to get a very decent accommodation without falling into the hands of these scammers?
Thank you. Any prospective tenant that wants to get that information,
All right?
first of all, ask the office which body of the estate agency do they belong to.
Good.
We have the primary one at the local level, we call them ACAN.
What do you call it?
ACAN.
Oh, okay.
We have them at local level,
Okay.
peripheral level.
All right.
Then we have where all the 3 or 5 bodies, and they are all being headed by a prominent and serious-minded people that have names. If they don't have the name of any of these members, they don't belong, then they should not get opinion from that person.
Okay. Thank you very much, Chief, for coming on the show. We really appreciate you. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. God bless.
All right, that was Chief Olusegun Agbati on the program. He's a real estate expert, sharing his perspective with us as regards how feasible it is, especially with the law that has been passed by Lagos State government, as regards the monthly rents that will be taking effect, of course, from the beginning of this year, 2021. Welcome to the show. It's the People's Voice. We've been talking about the tenancy, monthly versus annual rent. Now let's look at the legal side of this. And to do justice to this, we're being joined by a very important guest in the person of Barrister Jide Ologun. You're welcome to the program.
Thank you very much.
All right, so you are aware of the move made by Lagos State recently as regards to reviewing the annual rent that Lagosians have been paying for such a long period of time right now. Now, can you bring us up to speed as regards what the law says as regards this?
The law is not in any way abolishing yearly rent.
Okay.
It's a policy of the government that says, okay, we want to capture the formal sector where we may find people that it's difficult for them to pay the yearly rent. There is the sum of 5 billion naira set aside by the Lagos State government. It's okay, we take that responsibility over from them.
Okay.
We pay the yearly rent, but they pay us on a monthly basis.
Oh.
But you know that can only be applicable to those who have sources of income. And of course, you expect that interest rates will come in, because if the government is going to pay ahead for you, they have to ensure that the investment value of that money is not lost, even though it is a social investment. So it's not a blanket policy that everyone must now collect monthly rent. It will be a tough one to implement. Perhaps somewhere down the line, when the policies, engender a more friendly economy, where it becomes easier to build houses, where incomes are regular, then you may now begin to implement it generally. But for now, it's just a government policy.
All right. Now, I'm going to still refer back to that law. It was stated there that there are certain areas that are exempted. I don't know if you're aware of that. Areas like VI, Lekki, Ikoyi, Apapa, Ikeja, GRA, and the like. Does it mean that other areas that do not fall under that jurisdiction, so to speak, will be made to pay the usual annual rent?
These are high income zones in Lagos.
Okay.
You don't go to Victoria Island, for example, and you want to be collecting rents on a monthly basis. It's possible, you may be paying $10,000 per month, but you are talking of a social investment now, reaching out to the class of people who are stressed.
So which area are you looking at now, if you must be very specific?
With all due respect, and without castigating, when you begin to talk about Okokomaiko, Agege, maybe some parts of Ikeja and stuff like that. But like I said, it will start from the formal sector. So if there are people who, though they have income, but it's difficult for them to pay annual rent. For example, the minimum wage in Nigeria now is 30,000 naira, and if you have to pay 450,000 naira as rent, and this man who has built his house, he also has mortgage obligations to service. You now want to tell him that you cannot collect more than 25,000 per month. For example, the big question now is that how do you ensure that even that rent is regular? Because as I sit here now, I have a tenant who is paying about 2 years rent in arrears, and that is considering the fact of COVID-19. So it's a dicey. Do we have the culture of willingly paying rent? The answer is no. And that's why some perceive even the existing law as giving more power.
What could be the reason why, like you said, people are not naturally, inclined towards paying rent?
It's a function.
Is it that someone would just decide not to pay rent?
Value system, yes. We have a matter in court now that's been there for over 10 years. This man came to rent monthly basis, high impact area, and he paid the 1.5 years rent. Before the expiration of that tenancy, he took his landlord to court on interpretation of clause. I think around the 6th year, he was already owing about 50 million naira. Until we speak now, the matter is still in Ikeja High Court. He has vacated, but he has refused to pay, and he's still arguing in court. And you see, this can bring pain on investors. Those who have given you money to buy the house, they are not going to listen to your story. When you go to the bank borrowing, their terms are there, you have your collateral. So we need to make the environment business friendly, and I can let you know that particularly in Lagos State, where you have more persons looking for accommodation than the available accommodation, some will be friendly at the point of entry. But by the time they settle down there, it becomes difficult to get rent from them. And the law also becomes an excuse for them, because in tenancy relationship, you cannot throw anybody's things out, except maybe you want to operate like a military officer or whatever. So is either the tenant willingly leaves your property, or you go to court. Again, you know what it means to go to court. Some will even threaten landlord that, don't worry, go to court, I'll be with you in court for 4 years. Some have achieved different kinds of obstacles, bringing in applications, unnecessary motions. You see, so we need to fine-tune our relationship that, I owe this obligation, I want to meet it as a responsible citizen. That is not available. That's even the government owes. We have read that the government have enjoyed electricity and they have refused to pay the schools. So it's a whole gamut of issues that we must resolve. But we must commend the government of Lagos State that is saying now that okay, we want to set aside 5 billion naira to help those who may not be able, even though their income earners. It's very critical.
Yes,
you don't
true.
go to those who are earning wages, people selling on the street or liberals to say, okay, they won't pay back. You see, so it becomes another thing. So it becomes like the 10,000 the federal government was giving out to people. By now, many people cannot account for that money. They have not been able to establish any meaningful business. So for us, it's not the way to go. If you go to section 15 of the Nigerian Constitution, you read it all the way to section 16. It talks about the government providing affordable accommodation, affordable food, maximum happiness. So if we embark on that and the properties are there, we should be able to solve the accommodation gap we have in the country. And I can tell you, for example, in Abuja, you are moving from the airport to the metropolitan areas to see huge estates, vacant, just there.
No one is
Some
occupying.
people have put money into it. These properties are idle.
'Cause the
Go to
affordability
Ikoyi
is not
now,
there.
you see mansions that are deserted. These children have gone abroad. So the government has the opportunity. Look at when the former governor of Lagos State was in office, Lateef Jakonde.
Yeah.
I lived in one of the estates.
How was the experience
Abeson
like?
Estate.
How was the experience?
For
like?
the low income
Earners,
class.
yeah.
And it's quite interesting. So if the government decides that, okay, we want to carry everyone along, we want to build houses, even
Yeah.
if they are high rises, fix electricity,
Yeah.
give them water,
Yeah.
give them access roads and
Yeah.
things like that.
Yeah.
Give them facilities. Can even create these communities that they don't need to travel all the way from Ota, Ogun State to come to Victoria Island just because they want to earn 30,000 naira. You talk about the transportation. So there are a lot of things we can do to create the safety net. But this is a good step in the right direction. But like I said, it is for the formal sector. It's not a blanket policy. It's not a blanket policy.
All right, so I really would like to ask you a question. When you talked about government doing this for the, low income earners, my question now is, how realistic are those funds that you feel government is trying to set aside for, the private sector, as the case may be?
It's realistic.
Because this is not the first time government will be coming out to make such statements. And I feel, to my own understanding, I just feel maybe government don't want people to feel like maybe they are not actually, reasoning towards the plight of the people. I mean, the common or average, man out there. So how realistic do you think this will be? Because it's one thing making the statement, and it's another thing matching it with actions.
If there is sincerity of purpose, it's realistic. I just made reference to former
Jakonde.
Governor Lateef Jakonde.
Yeah.
You must have been hearing about Jakonde
Sure, I
Estate.
heard.
Jakonde Estate.
Yeah.
If you go and study the profile of Muammar Gaddafi in Libya, the man did a lot, even though he was taken out of office. You see, but that's a discussion for another day.
Yes.
He provided accommodation for citizens, finance to start business, jobs for young ones that are coming up. His social net achievements, with high accolades. And that is what we are saying. Some of the experiences we have encountered in town is that, okay, sometimes government embarks on high-scale projects
Yeah.
where to buy a flat, maybe 35 million naira. So who eventually buys? Perhaps a commissioner who already has 4 houses in Ikoyi will still come and buy the 35 million flat and rent it out to somebody struggling. So we have issues. So if you pay attention to the needs of the people, you are mindful of the income gap and everything, then you provide for everyone. The Jakonde estate may not be like the high profile estate, but a house is a house.
At least
a
people
shelter
are
somewhere.
sheltered, yeah.
You go in there after working and you can access your workplaces. The Abeson estate I made reference to, when I was living there, it was traumatic accessing that place because of the bad roads. But if you go there right now, so the government is trying, really. good roads connecting it. You can drive now in Lagos through Ekoro, Mero, and So when we embark on this infrastructural development, we come to meeting the basic needs of human beings. And what are these basic needs? You talk of raiment, you talk of food, you talk of shelter. They are basic. Then by extension, maintaining that life, health sector, education, and things like that. And I believe that for Nigeria, the resources are overflowing. We have the largest deposit of proven gas in Africa. If we maximize that, we should be able to provide for the people.
All right. So before we quickly, wrap up your segment, now I want you to please talk about this area that has to do with caution. Most landowners or landlord, as the case may be, would want to tell you, like there's one that just happened recently, a lady who paid, for an apartment, and of course included the caution and all that. In the course of it, the property, one of the doors where she lived got broken. It wasn't as if she broke it deliberately. Then when she was about to leave the place, rather than the man, refunding back the money for caution, he said he's going to use it to repair it. Like, the lady now came up with the issue. Am I supposed to be the one repairing your property for you?
That is the essence of caution.
So,
and that is also
how do you explain
the beauty of contract. You sign an agreement.
Of course.
Who maintains, and basically in a tenancy agreement, the tenant maintains the interior.
For you, the property owner?
Yeah. The tenant maintains the interior.
Is there
because
a law
it must be,
that?
we qualify, it must be in a tenantable state before you came in. So we put a clause that you maintain it. If anything is damaged, you fix it. When you are leaving, you at least return it to a tenantable state. But when you talk about the externals, the walls and things,
paintings,
but there must be an agreement covering that. Caution fee means some people may deliberately damage your property.
Okay.
And they disappear. So caution fee is refundable. You can
on
call
a ground
for the refund if you are leaving and you have not damaged anything. And let me advise here, generally speaking, by the grace of God, I've been a tenant, a landlord. Please take care of other people's property. If your prayer is to own your own, see, don't live as if you don't care. If you don't care, good things will not come your way in life. That is the experience I've had. So, as part of our own family culture, our parents taught us that wherever you are is home for you. So whether it's a rented apartment or not, and I can let you know that it will give you the good profile, and you won't have all this rancors. From experience, for those who invest in the real estate, sometimes when a tenant is leaving your property, you spend about double of the rent you collected to put the property back in shape. It's not the best. It's not the best, you see.
All right. Thank you very much. Well, that's our offering for you today. We believe you've been able to pick 1 or 2 points from today's episode, and we believe you enjoyed every bit of it. If you unavoidably missed this week of the episode, well, you can catch a repeat broadcast on our YouTube channel at iBrandTV. Till we come your way same time next week, I am Joshua Okata.
And I am Samuel Okata.
From all of us here, it's bye for now.